foundation founded by our very dear Ashwathnarayan ji and Shri Krishna Gaur ji. It is a privilege to be here amidst all the thinkers, educators, and thought leaders of this state and beyond to discuss about what it would mean to have right kind of governance in educational sector. And being organized on this good governance as a mark of respect to the great leader of this country, Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, is even a greater responsibility when we come together to discuss that. I had the privilege as a student in Puttaparthi to see Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji used to come as a devotee and was very, very fond of the system of education and discipline that he saw in all our educational institutions. So I studied under the guidance of Bhagavan Shri Satya Sai Baba, and thereafter I have embarked on this journey of service, as you have already seen. What is good education alone can lead to good governance, because ultimately all human beings are products of education. So if they have to be leaders tomorrow, governors tomorrow of this nation and beyond, they have to be educated right. And already our Ashwath Narayan said, right education is something that we are all striving for. So I would like to just draw your attention to what is our thought on right education as an Indian Sanskriti, as a Sanatana Dharma. What is the thought? So in our Upanishad, it is said, in Mundaka Upanishad it comes, it is said, Dve vidye veditavye itihasma yat brahma vido vadanti parachaiva aparacha. Two kinds of educations must be taught to every person, and they are Paravidya and Aparavidya. Aparavidya is the education of the material sciences, what we need to run our family, get a job, and fill our bellies. But Aparavidya is the education of the beyond. And that beyond in our culture is known as the Adhyatma Vidya. That is what Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam. Amongst all kinds of education, I am the spiritual education, spiritual knowledge. So truly, a good human being can be created only with the balance of both the material and the spiritual knowledge, or the secular and the spiritual knowledge, whichever we want to present it. Our education system from the Gurukulam days, ever since Sri Rama, Krishna, all those people went to their own gurus and studied. They studied in both these systems of education. And there is a mention in Valmiki Ramayana when all the four brothers are brought back by sage Vashishta and handed over to the father Dasharatha after their graduation. This is what Vashishta had to say about the four brothers. He said, Babuva bhuyo bhutanam swayambhuriva manyate sarvaloka hite rataha sarve samudita gunaihi sarve sampannaha. All these children have returned from the Gurukulam as great ones. And what kind of people they are? Sarvaloka hite rata. They are always willing to engage in the service of others. And what are the qualities that they possess? They say sarve sampannaha. They have all kinds of knowledge, the material and the spiritual. Sarva Veda Vidaha, Shuraha. They are adept in the knowledge of the Vedas and also the Shastra Vidya and Shastra Vidya, because they are Kshatriyas, so they need to know Shastra Vidya as well. So they are adept in that. Then he says, Sarve Samudita Gunaihi. All good qualities emanate from them spontaneously, naturally. They are good human beings. And it says, Sarva Lokahiterata is the most important quality. Having attained all the knowledge, all the abilities, all the good qualities, what do they do with it? They just don't use it for their furtherance of their personal welfare, but it is for the good of all. Sarva Lokahiterata. And then he declares, amidst the four of them, Sri Rama is the best. He says, Tesham api Mahatejaha, Ramo Satya Parakramaha. So in a way, the gold medalist among the four is Sri Rama, because he is the epitome of all these wonderful ideas of education that our system was providing, that they should be adept in our spiritual knowledge, also the material or secular knowledge. They should know their skills. Shastra Vidya is the skill of a Kshatriya. So they were skilled in that too, not just theoretical knowledge, but complete knowledge. Then we had 64 kalas, including making your bed or arranging a flower vase like this. All these were a part of our 64 kalas. So every student was taught that in Gurukula. And of course, they are having all the good qualities, the qualities of humility, kindness, compassion, service-mindedness, patriotism, whatever you can call. All these emanate from these people. So that was the complete holistic education that our system talked about. Now, over the period of time, we all know that it has changed. its type, and now it's more employment oriented education, which is fine, but that only serves half the purpose, is what our scriptures would say. If you can make a person capable of getting an employment, a gainful employment after an education, you have got half of it right. But the other half is to build the character of the person, especially the spiritual character, where the person is very grounded in certain value systems and is not willing to sacrifice them. If I go back to our DVG's poem in from Mankutimada Kagga, he says, Hale Beru Hosa Chiguru Kudiralu Marasobhagu. ಹಳೆ ಯುಕ್ತಿ ಹೊಸ ತತ್ವ ದೊಡಗುಡೆ ಧರ್ಮ ಋಷಿವಾಕ್ಯದೊಡನೆ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನ ಕಲೆ ಮೇಲವಿಸೆ ಜಸವು ಜನಜೀವನಕ್ಕೆ ಮಂಕುತಿಮ್ಮ. The combination of both kinds of education is what our system requires. Now I am very very aware that while we are Vijnana Kale is going on and we are doing all Hosa Yukti and Hosa Chiguru is coming, but the Hale Tattva is something that is being missed out. At least in the classrooms of the regular educational institutions, I don't find them. Maybe outside classroom discussions happen on the corridors, in the library, or in some private hours with the teachers. But as the regular mainstream education, it has been put out. Whatever, like in the West, we have the state versus church dilemma. Something like that has happened even in our systems over here, for whatever reason. But I feel that unless we set that part right, and I'm not talking about simply a religious education, but spiritual education, which teaches some basic core human values. And those are common to all religions, all philosophies, all faiths. Those have to be extricated from there and made into a part of the regular education system. And that is what will transform the education system of India, because no other country or other cultures ever had this kind of a holistic education system at all. We were the only country which always had it and still have it in so many places, like Gurukulams that are run even today by a lot of matas. These things are a part of it. Bhagavad Gita is taught, multiple multi-religious studies they undertake, multi-faith studies they undertake, like in our institutions. It opens their mind to a greater idea of humanity more than the narrow-mindedness of us versus them. And that opening of human minds is extremely important. That blossoming of human personality with both the kinds of education is extremely important. While I understand the pressures of getting employment, especially if you are an education minister, the first question they will ask you is, how many people got employed after their education? What is the use of such an education which cannot employ? So I fully understand the employability of education. I was very thrilled to see some of the setups here where they're talking about skill building universities, skill based programs, no more those traditional degrees. And I was in the US also, I was talking to some of the educationists. They said, Swamiji, nowadays even Stanfords and Harvards are giving free scholarships for higher education. I asked, this is what we call in Hindi, ulti ganga. How can that ever happen? The westernized system of education commercialized it, and suddenly they're decommercializing. What's going on? They said because there are no takers for these long degrees of 4 years, 5 years. Nobody is coming, and those seats are going empty. So I asked, what are the people doing then? Where are the students going? They say either because of the burden of education, the cost of education, they don't join, or they take up some skills and they get a job quickly. And so skill market or job market is hot, but degree market is no more hot. I think that is the next phase of education in India. So when I saw that one of the companies, whole name ado, Bloom company, they're talking about skill-based, employability of the students. I think that is the future. People will pick up certain skills, but in this race to become employable, will we forget the original idea of education, which is blossoming of human personality? Is my worry that in the race to get jobs or get our students up there, will we forget to remind them of their greater responsibilities as human beings, as divine beings, not even human, as Swami Vivekananda says, every human is potentially divine. So divinity has to blossom through education. Is that happening, is the question that we have to ask as educationists. If it must happen, then what needs to be done? And our formula in our education institution is very simple. We say education, health, all these are basic human rights. ಅದು ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು, ಅದದ್ದು ಅದು ವ್ಯಾಪಾರ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಎಂತವರೆಗೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಅಂತವರೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನು ಉಚಿತವಾಗಿ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಓಲ್ಡ್ ಪದ್ಧತಿ. ಆಲ್ ಅವರ್ ಗುರುಕುಲಾಸ್ ವರ್ ಫ್ರೀ, ಆಲ್ ಅವರ್ hospitals, Vaidyashalas were free, and they were largely run by the temples at that point in time, which were patronized by the kings and the wealthy ones in the society. Even ordinary devotees used to give to the temples. That's why temples were richer than most of the kingdoms. And that is the reason, because they believed there is a greater power at work and we all owe it to that power. And that ran all these institutions. Now government has taken that job. in a way God has been slightly replaced by government in the system. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಗಾಡ್ ಕೆಲಸ ಅಂತ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದೇ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ we have got a replacement for that temple system into government. A government patronizes institutions and provides for that. Of course, for a large country like ours, which is so large and so many students, more than 25 crore student population, it is difficult to reach out to every one of them unless all sectors of the society come together, the NGOs, the governments, and the private sector. Unless we all come together, it is not possible to educate all of the country. But when we are coming together and doing it, let us do it right. And doing it right is to also inculcate that spiritual or the moral part of education back into the education system. And that is, I think, would lead to good governance, because we will create good human beings at the end of it, like Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna, who are ready to sacrifice their rights for each other. When Bharata is said, "You can be the king," Mother Kaikai says, he says, "That's wrong. The right thing is Rama should be the king, and you have played tricks and got Rama out of it, but I am not going to be the king. I'll rather have his padukas rule the kingdom." Like, where do you hear such thing? If a father calls two sons, says, "I'm dividing my property today," what would happen after that? We all know. Nobody is satisfied. But here is one brother say, "You take it." They fight on this issue that you take it, I don't want it. Now, that is the moral fiber. That is the spiritual stamina. That is the real values in those brothers. And that kind of system, if we can create, the only way is teachers, because the largest waking hours we spend, the longest waking hours a student spends, is with the teachers in the school, not with the parents at home. So it is teachers who get the lion's share of the students' attention. Therefore, education system is so very important in shaping the future of the country. And if we don't do it right now, the population is increasing, more youngsters are being born. It means if we don't solve the problem now, it will get only bigger with the passage of time. And if a human being is not trained right, he will definitely take to the wrong route, because the mind's nature is to decline, it to fall down. It never rises up on its own. That needs effort. And that effort, I think, unless we collectively put, we are never sure of a brighter future. Vikasit Bharat may happen, our GDP may go above 30 trillion or whichever in a couple of years from now. But will it be equitable? Will it be just? Will it be fair? Which are the principles of good governance? I have my own doubts about it. So who can make the difference happen? Yes, governments with the right kind of policies, and institutions like ours with the implementation of such policies, and in general, the masses, the parents, the teachers, and the society at large should demand that education has to be more balanced, and it should have the infusion of values and building of character as the core principle of education. And that is something that I am also always advocating for. Wherever I go, I talk about it. I say a few hours in a week must be kept aside for at least a conversation, a dialogue, a discussion on these moral things and moral dilemmas, case studies from our scriptures or from around the world. How people, when they face dilemmas, especially moral ones, they stood with what is right and they braved those against the temptations of short term gains. And that is what builds a long term sustainable growth and progress for the whole nation. And I think the great ones like Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, who stood for such things. We remember that speech in his parliament when he was, with one vote, he was removed from being the prime minister. He did not lose his heart. He wished the opposition well. Even in that phase of insult, in a way, injury and insult together, he wished them well. That is the character of a person. Of course, he came back to be the prime minister again and ran a full term. Only first prime minister after Congress party in BJP was Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and he took some major decisions like the Pokhran tests. That is the time when India could have faced sanctions, and at a very delicate time in the history where our economy was not also not doing too well, he took such big bold decisions to secure the sovereignty of the country. Now, this character is not possible unless you have had that moral grounding, spiritual grounding. And he was a spiritualist, I know, because I've seen him in Puttaparthi so many times. I've heard his speeches, and his depth of knowledge of Indian idea, Indian ethos, Indian Samskriti, and Sanatana Dharma was very inspiring for even students like us who were just doing their graduation program at that time. So I again, it's a great idea to bring everybody, all sectors together. And I think it is the time to, as they say, bell the cat. This is the most crucial juncture, because we are the youngest country in the world and we'll remain young for the next 25, 30 years. And we are providing the largest working population to the world. And it has, namaskaram. It has to be rooted in morality and ethics, is my call of good governance. And I believe that good governance can happen. Only India can lead the way, because our whole governance is rooted in dharma. Dharmo rakshati rakshita. Dharma is the word we use, which has no parallel in any other culture or philosophy. And that dharma is so very deep as an understanding in our culture, doing the right thing irrespective of whatever be the consequences and circumstances, being able to stand by those ideas in the face of, as I said, temptation and dissuasions. That is the character that we have to build in our students. Then all these problems that sir is talking about, from substance abuse to immoral behavior to indiscipline to social crimes, they will automatically reduce, because they have a better understanding of what life is and what is beyond us. I think all of us were fortunate because we got such education. At least our teachers took extra efforts to see to that we were doing well. But today I don't see that happening. Very few very motivated, passionate teachers are there. So our university was established, Sri Satsai University for Human Excellence, with the sole motto to produce educators for tomorrow. And it is mandated that every student who graduates must be an educator. After that, he can be anything else. But first, he has to be an academician or educator, a shaper of students' destinies. And after that, he can be scientist or political leader or whatever he wants later in life. But a few years of his life, he has to dedicate, or she has to dedicate, as a teacher or an educator at whichever level of education, so that we build that, as I said, the moral character in the next generation. So my clarion call to all the educators who are there in this room: I know you have much more experience than me. I'm sure I was not even born when you were already professors, many of you. But what I have learned and what experiment we are doing from school till university is this. And I just want to tell that we have gone a little too strict also on that. Even in a medical school, which is completely free, all the students, they wake up at 4:30 in the morning, they perform the yoga, they go to their classes, they do their prayers, and in the evening, three in the evenings in a week, they all discuss spiritual subjects. That includes Bhagavad Gita and the studies of other faiths. Like today is Christmas, there is a celebration going on there, people from around the world. And there are no mobile phones in our university. No student can ever carry a mobile phone. They have laptops or tabs which are given by the institution, which are actually controlled for their academic purposes. And when they complain, saying, "What about my social life and things like that?" I said, "You have so many brothers and sisters around you. Go play sports, learn a new music piece or any new skill, and relax that way. Take a nature walk, do anything. But why do you want to bury yourself in that artificial world of social media, which is so rigged? This is totally planned, and we are playing at their hands, and they are using us, the algorithms and this whatever runs behind the scenes. So give yourself the real human touch. Talk to each other, be with each other, spend time with real humans. You will grow as a human being." And that is something that, again, as I said, should be. I'm not saying all schools can take away mobile phones, and that's not going to work. But at least during the college hours and the hours of education, one should be a little strict. And many countries are doing that. Australia has made it mandatory that you cannot bring phones and personal devices into classrooms anymore or into the educational campuses, because they saw the perils of it. So I think somewhere one or two important decisions as a society we have to take. And then I'm sure from there it will lead our way to the better things. So I know biting the bullet is always tough, and good governance means unpopular governance too. And one has to be ready to take that risk when it comes to. But unless somebody is ready to put their neck on the block, this is not going to change. The status quo will continue to deteriorate. So I hope that he was the former education minister. So I have had very good association with him. He was very kind to grant us two more university campuses very quickly, because I wanted to keep a separate girls campus and not mix it. And he immediately granted us that. And today we have three campuses. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಂಪಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ, ಅದು ಉತ್ತರ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ, ದಕ್ಷಿಣ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಂಪಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಬಟ್ ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ AI ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪಸ್ ಅಂತ. But I want to ensure that AI is used rightly, and I will come back to you again after a few months. So because this is 100 years of our founder Narayan Bhatt, Madhyal Narayan Bhatt, who was from Alike in Dakshin Kannada. Yes. So he's his 100th year of his life, and he was a great patriot. He was a great proponent of good education, and he stood by it, fought for it, did everything in his lifetime. He died early, but he handed over everything to Baba at that point in time. So that is how these Mudanalli Alike institutions were handed over to Baba. Now we are continuing whatever journey from here. But I'm looking forward to starting a university at Dakshin Kannada also. And this will be a part of it, that para and apara vidya, the secular and the spiritual, must go hand in hand like two wings of the bird, or two legs, or two hands, or two eyes. It has to be in balance. Without that, we will not achieve good society. And in no good society, no good governance works. Even if leaders are good, if people are not good, it won't work. And so also, if people are good and leaders are not good, that also won't work. To create a better society, we need a better education. And I'm sure this forum will bring out a lot of ideas. I'm looking forward to learning from all of you. I'm sorry that I cannot be here for longer because we have a program back again in the ashram where people are presenting. And we also have one of the largest symphony orchestra in the country. Our students 200-piece orchestra is there. And this evening we have a program. It will be live telecasted. Some of the students will be playing some of those Christmas songs along with Dr. L. Balasubramaniam and Kavita Krishnamurthy ji. So I wish if you have time, do look at that link as well. But I'm very thankful for this opportunity. ನನಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕನ್ನಡ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ನಾನು ಆಂಧ್ರ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಛತ್ತೀಸ್ಗಢದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆದರೆ ನನ್ನ ದುರಂತ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಒಂದೇ 6 ವರ್ಷ ಹಿಂದೆನೆ ನಾ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕನ್ನಡ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ. ನನಗೆ ಮೊದಲು ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಲಿತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. But it's a beautiful language, and I'm very very fond of Kannada literature, and my favorite is Kuvempu. And I keep going to Kupalli every now and then. It's a pilgrimage to me to go to Kavi Shaila, sit there and feel the vibes of the great son of this land, Rashtrakavi Kuvempu ji. So I feel very happy, and I'm feeling very privileged to sit next to Krishna Gowda ji, though I do not feel that I deserve that, but I hope I learn more, and next 5-7 years I'll improve my Kannada and give a whole speech. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ತುಂಬ ಧನ್ಯವಾದ, and all the best for this Shibira. I'm really looking forward to learning what comes out of this. And I would also like to invite all of you to the campus. It's at the very birthplace of Sri Sir M. Vishweshwaraya, Mudenhalli, and our whole institution stands there. The main campus stands there. Some of you have visited, but I hope we can conduct with your foundation one more Chintina Shivira in the institute there, because you can practically see what is implemented and what can work. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ ನನ್ನ ಅಪೇಕ್ಷೆ. ಅದರಿಂದ ನನಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಸಂತೋಷ, ತುಂಬ ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ.
Thank you, sir. We are truly blessed by your presence, Swamiji, and thank you for letting us know more about our Sanatana Dharma and also making us to realize the more the script of Mankutimana Kavga by our own DVG, sir. And also, ತಮ್ಮ ಕನ್ನಡ ತುಂಬ ಮುದ್ದಾಗಿದೆ, ತುಂಬ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಯಿತು, ಮತ್ತಷ್ಟು ಖುಷಿಯಿಂದ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬೀಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಐ ಕೈಂಡ್ಲಿ ರಿಕ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಅಶ್ವಥ್ ನಾರಾಯಣ್ ಸರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣೇಗೌಡರು ಟು ಡೂ ದ ಹಾನರ್ಸ್, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्षसहस्रपात् तथोऽस्मिन् विश्वतो कृत्वा अत्यतिष्ठत्खशाङ्कुलम् पुरुष एवेदकं सर्वं यद्भूतं यत्प्रभव्यम् उतामृतत्वस्येषानः यथन्नेनातिरोहति एतावानस्य विशिवा अथोज्जायाश्च पूरुषः. देवैतङ्गुरस्तात् शुक्लमुद्धरत् पश्येम शरदशतं जीवेम शरदशतं शृणुयाम शरदशतं प्रप्रवाम शरदशतं अधीनास्याम शरदशतं भूयश्च शरदशतात्.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. With this, we are concluding the first inaugural session. Please put your hands together for our chief guest, once again, Sadhguru Sri Madhusudan Sai, Global Humanitarian and Spiritual Leader, Founder, Chancellor, Sri Satya Sai University for Human Excellence. I also thank Dr. C.N. Ashwathnarayan sir, and also I would like to thank Professor Sri Krishna Gaudru, along with all the dignitaries and respected media personalities over here. Thank you very much for gracing the occasion. In a short time, we are going to begin the panel discussion. Panel discussion number 1. Kindly please bear with us. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಅವರ ತೆರಳಿದ ನಂತರ ನಾವು ಪ್ಯಾನೆಲ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಹಾ.